Jesse Greer, former coworker, good friend of White Oak Legacy Partners.
All right, congratulations, Ben, Matt, and the rest of the street commercial team. And Ben, if you decide to pivot out of commercial real estate, I see a little motivational speaking in your future. Good job. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse Greer, and I'm the president of White Oak Legacy Partners. And this will be the third time in the last 5 years that I participated in this forecast. And the only definitive coming out of this is the fact that I wish I had a return receipt for my crystal ball. So what I ended up doing is bringing back my three little economists to see how their 2022 predictions fared out and what's in store for 2023. Hello everyone, my name is Jesse Greer and I'm the president of White Oak Legacy Partners. I am honored to bring back my three leading economists for the third time in 5 years to discuss our multifamily trends. It has been a wild ride coming out of 2022 into 2023 and I'm excited to hear each other's thoughts. Before we get started, I'd like to point out that Teagan's optimism and bullish sentiment has won her the 2019 prediction. After careful review of last year's prediction, it looks like it was a draw. The first two quarters were record-breaking quarters, while the second two quarters were set back by record rate hikes and market uncertainty. Let's start with our current leader in market predictions, Teagan. Teagan, what do we have in store for 2023? Are you as bullish as the last two predictions?
Yes, but it will take some time to get past the uncertainty of rate hikes and recession concerns.
What does that mean for multifamily?
Well, Federal Reserve has slowed inflation through aggressive rate increases, and we just saw the labor market remains incredibly strong. Locally, home prices are historically high, and interest rates make home ownership less attainable. We still see a positive net migration of population coming out of state and a big jump in household incomes. With limited for sale inventory and new construction taking longer to get through the pipeline, multifamily rents and values will be fairly insulated as the Federal Reserve lowers rates in the later part of 2023.
That makes sense. Now let's turn to Halen. Halen, does it frustrate you that you had to share the win with Teagan for 2022 and she won the 2019 predictions?
What's frustrating is thinking inflation is transitory, increasing our monetary supply by 40% in less than 3 years. And that sub 3% interest rates are normal. But yes, I'm happy she can get a win where she can.
That's understandable. How do you think these policy measures will affect multifamily real estate?
We have seen the largest and fastest Federal Reserve rate hikes since 1980. Now with a strong labor market, I anticipate prolonged increases going into 2024.
That has to become an issue for valuations and jobs.
Correct. Cap rates will have to increase to offset against higher treasury yields. The only thing left in the Federal Reserve's arsenal to reduce inflation is to hyper-focus on reducing job growth. As job growth softens, so will wages. As job loss happens, change in household formation will occur. This will correlate to softening rental increases and reduction in net operating income. Between that and increased cap rates, value will adjust.
Teagan mentioned new construction as a challenge right now. Will that help or hinder your pessimistic outlook?
We have the largest supply of new inventory coming to the market both nationally and locally. This will only further increase the corrections. Let's not forget about the capital markets. Has anyone even qualified for a new construction or acquisition loan lately?
That does sound concerning. It sounds like your 2019 and 2022 predictions might come to fruition just a couple years later. Lastly, as always, the voice of reason. Jocelyn, what are your thoughts?
Are we finally going to get paid this time?
No, they will not. If only I had time for the outtakes. So let's jump into some of the supply and demand issues that we talked about on the video. Average wages. You can see through EDON here that we've done a good job of increasing our average wages year over year. 2019 being somewhat of an anomaly, and 2022 coming in at roughly $65,000 and anticipating 2023 being around the same as 2022. Now, will that be enough for home affordability and rental rates in this market? Now, this is a great slide right here that was published by EK Economics, and I'd like everyone to focus on this home price affordability by industry. There are 13 industries that are being tracked on this particular graph right here, and not a single industry can afford our new single-family home, our fourth quarter 2022 median home, and our existing single-family home. And only 3 can afford the new townhome condo price, while just 53% can afford the existing townhome condo. Now keep in mind, this is for what they consider 1.8 earners. Any single earner can't afford a single product type on this screen right here. Now what's that going to do? 3 things in essence. It's going to push people towards renting, it's going to push people out of this market, and it's going to push people to change their household formation, which means they're going to be grouping up a little bit more. Now let's talk about net migration. We're doing a good job of bringing people into this market, which creates the demand for multifamily. You can see the trend for out-migration is slowly starting to creep up back to that 22,500 number. With record-breaking years, we had a net migration between 19, 20, and 21 of roughly 5,800. Now, if we anticipate the 2019 and 2020 in migration creeping down back to its averages, we can start seeing migration in this market start to slow. So what does that mean for average rents, vacancy, and concessions? Johnson, Perkin, Griffin also puts out a great report, and as you can see right here, we have fallen off just a little bit from our record highs in Q2 of 2022 of $1,680 for the average rent in this market. Concessions have skyrocketed. So it's a matter of seeing if this is something that's more of a seasonal nature or if it's going to be more of a lasting trend. Vacancy rates still stay pretty stubbornly low. We have increased just a little bit, but we're hovering around the 3%, which is substantially below average. Transaction by property type. This slide is interesting as it showcases the total transactions in this marketplace that we track that are 5 units and above. As you can see, in 2017, we had 160 transactions in this marketplace. We're predominantly known to have multifamily between what we consider the 5 and 20 units. We track them by 21 to 79 and 80 plus. There are roughly 1,300 properties in this Northern Nevada market, and roughly 60 to 65% of them are 5 to 20 units, so predominantly we'll see more sales in that category. From 2017 to 2022, 160 to just 51 multifamily sales. In fact, if you look at 2020, which is our COVID year, we sold less properties this year than we did during COVID. And in fact, this is the first year that we had less than 50% of transactions in the 5 to 20 unit range. So this is sales by quarter, just breaking down what the previous slide showcased. As you can see in Q2 of 2020 during the COVID section, we pretty much dropped off to nothing. During the federal rate hike increases, you can see that we had a decent amount of transactional volume, but really what's telling is just the 5 to 20. So we went from 39 properties sold to 25. 21 to 79 and 80 plus still maintained fairly robust with institutional and high net worth capital that was looking into this market for 80 plus units. Now, what's interesting, what we did is we took the total transaction volume and we looked at the sales amount. So in 2017, even though we had 160 sales, there was only roughly 380 million of sales in this marketplace. Now, just at 51 sales total, we've increased that to $924 million worth of transactional volume. So even though there's less sales in this marketplace, there's more transactional volume that we see. And that is just pretty much due to institutional capital coming in from California, buying up the majority of what we consider institutional product or 80 plus unit product. So we had a 78% increase in value from 2020 and a decrease in volume. And then in regards to 2021, you can see the differentials as well. So it's an interesting phenomenon that we're seeing with the reduction in sales, but the increase in overall volume. So what does that mean for average price per unit? So 2017, just under 100,000, and now we're almost at 231,000 unit on average. In the first half of the year, we saw average cap rates between 3.5% and 4.5%, but right now it's really uncertain. We really haven't had too many transactions in this marketplace, and some of the properties we're seeing on the market are getting closer to that 5% cap rate based upon actuals versus pro forma, which is what we need. So going into it, you can see the differentials between the two. This is 5 to 20 units, and it looks like the dollar amounts were cut off. Okay, there we go. So we have 21 to 79 and predominantly 80 plus units. I'm not sure what happened there. But basically the 80 plus units saw the highest increase in price per unit out of all the property types. The top 5 buyers in the marketplace, we have 10 properties that were purchased by MG Properties totaling more than 1,000 units, and that's in addition to the existing properties they have already. So very bullish on the market. Now let's talk about apartment construction. This was one of the concerns that were brought up on the video, and this is something that we continuously talk about here in the marketplace. Under construction, we have roughly 6,000 units that are online. Approved, just over 7,000 units, and pending, almost 6,000 units. So what does that mean when you look at the total inventory of this marketplace, and what will it do to this market? The graph on the left showcases the percentage increase if you just look at the total property. So for example, 80 plus units, there's 44 properties potentially coming online, which only affects it by 4%. Now, if you take a look just by units, the amount of new units that are coming online into this market, potentially with under construction and approved, can increase the unit count by almost 20% of our existing inventory. So here are the top 3 multifamily sales in 2022. We had the ERG's portfolio sale, where that portfolio alone consisted of 1/3 of the total transactional volume in this marketplace. So congratulations. Integra Peaks, we almost hit $400,000 a unit for Integra Peaks, and that's definitely breaking a record. So future considerations, despite the positive and some of the uncertainty, we still have issues with our political climate, geopolitical climate, lending environment, inflation concerns, development, and demographics. So let's look at the political climate and rent control. Rent control is becoming a very hot topic nationally, and this is something that we are constantly working with our ownership to get more involved. As an example, in St. Paul, Minnesota, they have the worst draconian rent measures that we've seen that just been enacted, where you have to submit your 2019 income and you are only allowed to increase your rents by 3%, even if it goes back to market. Now, California, the AB 1482, we're projecting that we're going to need almost $100 million to fight that proposal to have the same type of draconian measures. Well, don't think it can't come over here. So I would encourage everyone that's involved in real estate, that owns real estate or makes money through real estate, to get involved and to make sure this doesn't happen. NAIOP's a great organization for that. Let's also talk about the lending environment. That's been discussed quite a bit in regards to interest rates. And interest rates have gone up dramatically. And what does that mean from an investment standpoint? So if we're currently at interest rates, let's say at 6%, what does that mean for your product type? So if I had a cash flow of $19,000 from a property when I bought it at a 3.5% interest rate, or roughly 4.8%, which is kind of where the market was at beforehand, if interest rates were to stay the same at where they're at now at roughly 6%, I would have to maintain that same cash flow by reducing the purchase price almost $1 million and increasing the cap rate by a full percentage point. So if interest rates stay where they're at and investors still have the same demand for returns, we're going to see some corrections in the marketplace. So here are my 2023 predictions. Rental rates remaining fairly flat, slightly up. Expenses are definitely going up. NOI slightly down, cap rates up. Valuations could be correcting as interest rates continue to climb as well. And the Q3 2023 vacancy at 3.72%. And as my youngest economist so astutely asked, are we getting paid this year? Will the real estate industry get paid this year? I hope so. Thank you.